Hello and welcome, guys, to another episode of the High Low podcast. This time we're doing things a little bit differently. It's no longer actually an audio only podcast, but you can also look at the video, and it's going to be video recorded. It's going to be uploaded on YouTube, Spotify, and just the usual platforms. However, the only additional feature that we're going to have is, you know, finally seeing our faces, the face of the guest, the face of the host, the mysterious guy who's behind all the podcast, the mysterious guy here who we have behind all the social media advertisements and all the social media, all the success on social media as well. I'm sorry I'm using this mic. I swear I have like a better headset, but I haven't
Well,
managed
you
to.
want to go whole out?
Look at this. I don't like it.
This is big. Congratulations, by the way, on the upgrade to format. This is huge.
Yeah.
Lots of people are podcasting, and I think that we're going to hear a lot of pod fade and a lot of people who've just sort of been burned out. It's exciting, and I want to point out to the listeners here, it's exciting to be part of an upgrade. It's exciting to be part of a podcast that has the future, that sees its potential, that sees our potential, and wants to invest in it in video. So, Basil, I see you. Thank you for that, and I'm honored to be here.
No, thank you for actually, sparing the time to be on this podcast again and talk more about the stuff that we discussed last time and talk more about like maybe some new ideas and some more questions that I've had regarding social media marketing and getting noticed and just being visible for others without spending as much time as you think you need on those platforms, which is
Yeah.
a big thing because a lot of people have this conception or misconception that they need to spend hours on social media to get to the point that they aim for or to reach the goals that they've set. But having had an interview with you and a discussion and a conversation with you and having had conversations with other people who work in similar fields, it turns out you don't need as much time and energy. It actually just requires using the right tools, having the right mindset, and knowing what you're doing on those platforms. So, I mean, okay. Last time
That's a great intro, by the
that's a
way.
good.
As you're saying that, it reminds me. I recently saw the movie Elvis. Did you see the movie Elvis?
No.
Happen to
Well, what's
know
that
anything
about?
about it? Do you know who Elvis is, the singer?
Yeah, yeah.
Right, the singer. So one of the things that I didn't know that I found out by watching the movie was Elvis actually never left America. I'm not, no spoiler alerts. So I'm not going to tell you the reason why, but it's a fact that he actually never toured outside of America. And it's a testament to not needing to be everywhere all at once, highly visible, without having something that's shareable. He created great songs. Those songs were shareable. The songs have spanned decades of sharing, by the way, that we're even now seeing a movie created for a whole demographic and genre of people who have no clue who he was. We are creators, and I think we will always be interested in the pioneers of celebrity, meaning the movie stars, the musicians, even the people in politics who are making a change that are using media to do that will always be part of the ecosystem of the alchemy of what we're creating. So just being mindful of that, it makes me really just sit back and realize like we all can be Elvis without having to travel the world. And technology is helping us do that right now. Technology. This is cool. This is my first record on Discord. And what I like about Discord already out of the gate is not only are we getting a great recording, but this is like a great connection. A real relationship is bonded here and will continue to stay connected afterwards. That's a really cool feature for a platform for recording content. And in this day and age of collaborating and creating content to get to know each other and build rapport with each other, that type of connection, that evergreen type of connection that we're creating here on Discord, that's priceless.
So for people who are just tuning in into the podcast and are a bit clueless of what we're talking about, last time you joined the podcast and we had a conversation where we discussed what's it like to be on social media, what it takes to be visible on social media, the importance of social media marketing for business, for content creators, and And for people who don't know you, Vinny here is he's an expert when it comes to branding and creating a brand, either for yourself or for your business. If you could take them just briefly over your career and what you've done, because your accomplishments are great, and that even like makes the points that you throw out to us like valid.
Oh yeah, sure. I appreciate that. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with celebrity culture. I grew up watching television, watching people who didn't look like me, who didn't act like me, be successful, and I watched groups of friends grow in the media, and I was always just wanted to be a part of that. In the late '90s, I got a little taste of it. I ended up working at MTV for 10 years. And helped become one of the early talent development executives that created Osbournes and Newlyweds and Punked and Wildin' Out and
Wow.
Making the Band. I got to work with the most ridiculous, iconic talent that you can think of now, from Beyonce, Diddy, Ashton Kutcher, Sharon Osbourne, Jessica Simpson, a billionaire, from selling boots, and who turned her lifestyle into a lifestyle brand when the music industry was really tough and really rough, especially on women in media back then, which hasn't really let up much. So claiming your own space, setting your own rules, changing up the game a little bit, and doing it in the media is like my sweet spot. And I like helping people do it in the three sectors of media. The public sector, which we talk about, is MTV, news, NBC, CBS, CNN, all the digital distribution that you're seeing on Apple TV now, Hulu, the AVOD networks. You have your personal content, which is newsletters, the things that you physically own yourself, the IP that you own yourself, newsletters, podcasts are great personal forms of media, great form of content that you own rights to that didn't exist when I was starting off in my career in the heyday. And then there's social media, which is this middle ground. Usually it's someone else's turf, i.e. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. It's someone else's LinkedIn. It's someone else's turf, someone else's rules. We get to put our content on there against their rules, and how our content performs based on how their algorithm sees our performance or how our audience interacts with our content. And what I try to make people do is create content that's, to be really honest, the trick is not in visibility. The trick is in shareability. You can win every award in the world, but the one person who loses the award, who has the crying, the moment, that moment in the award show, that's the moment that's going to get shared in the news. That's the moment that people are going to talk about in the podcasting and in interviews and in the pop culture zeitgeist, the social zeitgeist of what people are talking about. Being shareable is often way more valuable than being visible.
So who's the first celebrity that you worked with?
Mandy Moore.
And what was that like? I guess there's a lot of pressure on you being her
I was a
first
kid.
client. And you're
Yeah, I
okay.
was a kid. So
Uh,
I was a kid, no problem. I was working at MTV. I was a talent coordinator. My job was to bring this 15-year-old into the network to make sure she was comfortable on camera, to make sure that she was always on time and knew where to go and understood the process of being on TV. At that point, MTV saw that there was Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears. We auditioned Jessica Simpson, Mandy Moore. We auditioned a couple of people, and Mandy Moore just had a great personality, just a really strong presence. She could read the cue card during live TV and not get flustered, which was actually something that Jessica Simpson wasn't great at. Was reading off the cue card, but she was really good at being herself. And when we figured out that if we can give these people words to host, we can empower them. If we give them cameras to tell their story, we can empower them. And that's what we did with Newlyweds and Osbournes, and it was relationship building. I bring up Jessica Simpson so early in the process because for 2 years we knew of each other, and I was a coordinator at MTV, which only meant we had started off in the music industry together, and we were often at similar events, launch events, press events, because it's very much a community-based industry, especially before the internet, especially before social media and these iPhones changed our lives. We
hmm.
used to have these Nextel. We used to have like two-way pagers that would beam each other using NFC technology,
Yeah.
which is like some people think that's new, but beam me your info, we would say, or give me your PIN number. Um, my job was to be there for her, and also my job at MTV during that time was to support my boss, who was creating a talent development department. So for me, it was all about spreadsheets. You want to know what does my day look like? Excel, because I'm putting together one sheets. I'm figuring out cars. I'm figuring out call times, and I have to, move forwards and backwards from where people need to be. Before Uber, it took a day or two to coordinate a car to show up on time in a certain place, especially in Times Square, New York. Um, and then a lot of ingestion of content. I mean, I consumed a tremendous amount of music content. I was not listening to the type of music MTV was playing. I wanted to be a Broadway producer.
Mm.
So I like musicals and sort of not what we were watching on TV. So that was a crash course for me. And I think part of the reason why I was successful, because I didn't quite know, I didn't have the stardom. I didn't put people on pedestals as a fan, the way some people had, and I was able to approach it really peer to peer, eye to eye. Although that being said, I got to be honest, I became very close friends and still am with Jamie Lynn Sigler, who played Meadow from Sopranos. And Sopranos was out for a whole season before I met her, and it took me years to shake off that. Like Meadow Soprano knows my grandma and my family, and like knows my brothers and my sister, and became friends because that's what I wanted. I wanted friends in the entertainment industry that were creative, that would somehow, by being surrounded by them, make me creative, and it's literally exactly what happened. Like as a kid, my mom told me, "Don't hang out with those people; they're going to get you in trouble." So then
Mm.
I used that advice for the better, and I made lifelong friends at a point in time in Times Square at MTV in New York, where people come and go. It's transient. You're in and out. It's like so I'm very lucky to be born and raised in New York, but to also want to stay here in New York for as long as I have to see TV grow, because the TV in New York, the growth is all in cable. All the reality TV, the news, digital cable that you're seeing, a lot of that's coming out of New York. And that's been pretty neat to not have to move to LA to stay in the TV industry. I've appreciated that.
So was it like exactly what you expected when it came to dealing with celebrities and working with celebrities and becoming or having these close ties and relationships with them? Or was it something, was it just too good to be true? Or was it this awful experience with some? Because sometimes there's a stigma around famous people that they could be demanding, they could be a bit too much to handle sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I'll say it this way: it all made sense. Um,
Mm.
I work with. Okay, so I think that most of those stories, when you hear about celebrities being difficult to work with, I think most of those scenarios have to do with them doing their skill, like them performing or singing or dancing. Like I would imagine most of the difficult times that people have with celebrities are when celebrities have a vision or an energy about like a way a performance should go and wanted to get there or trying to get people there. For me, my job wasn't about empowering what you already did that was amazing.
Mm.
It was complementing it with something from television. It was developing out the brand a little bit more. So there was a lot of intrigue associated with the energy brought into my meetings at MTV, where talent were curious and we asked questions that probably never got asked anywhere else in any other room because there was no one hired. I was hired by MTV to find a way to work with talent. How cool. There's already a music department, by the way. There was already a talent department. They were already
Mm.
booking artists who have albums and actors who have films. It was a well working machine. But what about all the in between? Because you know what we realized? Those artists oftentimes those artists became artists so they could have a public voice, so that they launch the album, so they can make the change that they want to make in this world. And that's slowly what we got to do. With Ashton, it was showing how we could be creators. That's really
Mm.
what Punked was. Punked was fun to watch celebrities get jokes played on them, But I think it was more fun to think. Not only do I think I could do Ashton Kutcher's job, and I want those hats and all that weird style that came out of the early 2000s, but I think I could do this. I
Mm.
can sit in a room and think of crazy ideas and tape my phone to something and come up. The Osbournes. By the way, some people say the Osbournes reminds them of the family down the street. When they were, I was that family down the streets. Like the Osbournes, I felt right at home. A dysfunctional family built with love, where people aren't perfect, but they were committed to each other to make it right, and that stood the test of time. Look at that family; they've not been handed, easy or difficult, options, but they take them on head on, and they support each other. That's still evident, and I think we were lucky that Sharon and Ozzy had created that family with that energy that has that with that open mindedness that we could peer into that family and see them be us. And I think we all saw us somehow in the Osbournes, whether we were Sharon or Kelly, or we've all had our moments where we couldn't get a word out of our mouth and we sound like Ozzy Osbourne. We all have those moments, and those relatable moments became part of everyone's vocabulary when MTV put them on air. And I thought that was neat. I thought it was cool that we could create words, create energy, and create a way for people to connect outside of just watching television. And that comes from youth culture. That's why I think I'm still obsessed with the 18 to 24-year-old demographic, and it probably always will be. That demographic of TV viewers is a special viewer. They take risks, they make change, they do things that the generation before them didn't. I know mine did, and the millennials after me, and Gen Z after them. And that's what I loved most about MTV was getting to talk to 18 to 24-year-olds who are figuring out how they want to operate in life. What kind of families do they want to have? What kind of businesses do they want to have? It's cool to be part of that process. I respect that, and I can bring information and experience and impact that. I know that well.
So now that you're no longer part of MTV, do you still get the chance to work with celebrities?
Yeah, absolutely. I worked with Mandy Moore just last year, Rainn Wilson from The Office, Hoda Kotb from The Today Show, many, many celebrities. I've been I found myself in a position in production when a production needs talent. If that talent is attached to promoting a film, there are talent bookers who do that type of talent booking, who will connect an actor to a film because they have something to actually promote and send an audience to. What I'm trying to do in my career now is make impact. I don't want to just make content. I've already made hundreds of thousands of hours of content where people got to sit in their couch and laugh, and we got to cry, and we got to walk in other people's shoes, and we got to see the grass isn't always greener, so I'm not going to poo-poo my career, but I want to make content that motivates us to get up and make action.
Mm.
So those actors and talent that I talked about, those are pretty vocal talent that are out there talking about the importance of voting, talking about the environment. So I'm really excited to use my experience in media and my talent resources and contacts for projects like that. And it won me an environmental media award, which is super cool. And by the way, also just last year, I think the challenge finally made it to Netflix. So
Yeah.
like it's been years since I saw my name on an MTV show, and I have never seen an MTV show on Netflix either. So it was really cool for me to have there was my credit, casting director in a top 10 show on Netflix because I cast it 20 years ago, which is crazy to think of how media and content work. But
Yeah,
that's the
no, it's
benefit of it, and those are lifelong friends. And my best friend
yeah.
Dan, he executive produces the challenge, and he's on every single version of the challenge globally that they're doing, because there's a bunch now. So we always look on Find My Friends, and he's always in a different country. He's like, don't tell anybody. He takes it very seriously. He'll never tell us who wins, though, by the way. But I have lifelong friends that still work at that network that are carrying on Wild 'N Out. They're carrying on the challenge. I mean, those are legacy projects for me. They created more than just we created more than just content. We created jobs and careers and lifelong jobs and careers. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
So now, like with a guy with this kind of experience, you've worked with a lot of celebrities, you've worked in a lot of projects, you had a lot of exposure, and you've probably witnessed or experienced a lot of different scenarios to help you gain your skills. But you must know that now it's really difficult to stand out when it comes to social media marketing, right? Because the competition is just severe and it takes a lot. And sometimes it takes you a lot of courage. It takes a lot of energy to make content that stands out, that is something that's unique, that's pretty, let's say, something that's pretty, or that could help you connect a lot more with the consumers. Um,
Hmm.
so, what would you say is like an effective strategy to stand out? Because if you look at some people who are constantly um, in like the top 10 or top 20 of content creators, you look at Mr. Beast and other influencers. But Mr. Beast, he puts a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of thought into each and every single one of these episodes,
Yeah,
and those
right.
ones
You
are
see how many
crazy.
like thumbnails he creates too? He creates like dozens of thumbnails just to land on the right one.
Yeah, like even the amount of hours they used to spend. And he was a guest on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he talked about his career and the way it progressed. And he told us that at the very beginning of his career, they were sitting for 8 hours straight every single day, not only brainstorming ideas, but trying to study and understand the algorithm in which YouTube works and the YouTube community works. And that's why
Yeah.
they were able to stand out. Now, a lot of people might not have that much time. I mean, of course, it depends on how much you are willing to risk, on or how much you are willing to put. What are you leaving behind when you're taking this career path? However,
Yeah.
like as you said, it's all about shareability and to increase discoverability, right? So, what's the
Mhm.
trick to having shareable content?
Yeah. Okay. A couple of things. First off, isn't it nice to know how hard Mr. Beast works?
Yeah, no, it's
Wait,
insane.
like not for nothing, but if he made it look as easy as the Kardashians make being famous look, because they make it look way too. I know how difficult it is. They make it look way too easy, by the
Mm,
way. So it's nice to hear these numbers. I got to point that out because hard work pays off. A couple of things. One, to stand out, let's go with the high low. There's two ways to stand out. So if you don't know what makes you stand out, first and foremost, as a brand, if this is the thing that you aren't aware of,
yeah,
my first process would be write a list of all the things that make you similar,
yeah.
terribly similar. I eat pizza. I like the Yankees. I'm, very, very boring. I'm a guy. I'm in my Ford. Very basic, boring stuff that
Mm,
you know for a fact is what makes you similar, because that's going to help you figure out what makes you a little bit different. And then in this
yeah.
different list, you'll start figuring out, you know what? I'm kind of quirky. I'm going to talk about myself for a second. I'm a little quirky. I have a kind of a cheesy dad joke vibe of energy. I like family friendly programming. Like my favorite show is America's Funniest Home Videos with
Mm,
hamsters running around the house, like things that I watched with my family
yeah,
that felt really good. Like levity. I loved levity in entertainment without diluting the impact of the conversation, without taking away from the seriousness of what we are sharing.
yeah,
Levity. Those were things I figured out started to feel like we're a little bit closer to who I am as a unique individual versus what I think a creator is. And it's that list of things that I find to be slightly unique. Maybe I would say they're annoying. To be really honest, like I would write a list of things that I think are annoying to people because clearly that's going to make me unique.
yeah,
So, is there something with my voice, something with my laugh, something with the way I'm saying this? If you've been watching YouTube, I talk with my hands. If you aren't watching us on YouTube, now's a good time to invite you over to the channel. Come by, say hi, subscribe, make yourself comfortable, drop us a friendly hello in the comments. I will respond back. I'm at VPE TV. I got a little 5-letter name on YouTube. So that's step number one, right? If you don't know what makes you fascinating, then like come up with this list of things that you know for a fact make you similar, so that you can start creating this list of things that make you unique and fascinating. I do have a test if anyone wants to take it, vpe.tv/fascinate, FASCINATE. I
Yeah.
think that works. Anyway, and that will tell you a couple of other strong character markers to how your peers may be seeing you. So if you don't understand what makes you fascinating, then it's going to be hard for you to lean into yourself, because you're going to be questioning, well, who am I in front of these people, and what do these people see me as, right? So it makes it hard to go viral if you're not able to turn the volume up 100%. It makes it hard to even look at trends and mimic trends, because you would feel kind of like you're jumping around all over the place, fitting into what you know is relevant, but not understanding the point of view of your own character. So here's the first step.
Mm.
Patterns. Patterns. This is where consistency works. Some of the best ways to stand out are to create patterns, meaning if you're creating content that has a blue tint to it every single day, and then all of a sudden there's one with a pink tint or a white tint or a yellow tint, it's going to stand out.
Yeah.
So there are ways that you can prime your audience, train your audience, prepare your audience for you to stand out.
Mm.
Patterns are a great way to do it. On social media, I'm not talking about necessarily the profile grid. I don't really think that, like, you know what? Let's say it this way. It looks like the profile grid. If you're doing patterns, your profile grid will look great. But I wouldn't recommend you doing a pattern for your profile grid. I would recommend you creating a pattern of your content that results in a really pretty profile grid that looks, organized, because the content is there. So I had a conversation with a friend recently, and she's launching a project. The project has 5 key pillars to it, and she was wondering how she could create content on social media that supports these 5 key pillars.
Mm.
Every time she goes to write something, she feels like she wants to write about something else, and she wasn't able to talk about this. So I said, create a grid of 6 columns, and then in the far right one, put your 5 columns. In the far left column, in the first column, let's come up a list of like equipment, energy, collaboration, people. Let's come up with a list of all the ways that we could look what your 5 pillars are, so that we can understand, your 5 steps to growth, and understand how equipment is needed for those 5 steps. And then
Mm.
this way, what you can do is sit down one evening and say, oh, you know what? The first thing I want to talk about is a microphone for recording. I wish I didn't spend so many $150 microphones. I wish I would have just bought the 250 instead of spending like a 95 and then 150, because I spent more money getting to the $250 microphone than
Yeah.
ultimately I would have. The camera. Now that we can shoot on our iPhone with 4K camera using the iPhone's Apple technology. That's pretty cool. So understanding technology is neat, and I can see how, if you created the content that you can be creating is not the content that you should be creating. What you should be posting and what you can be creating are 2 different things. And when they line up, that's where the magic lives. That's where the magic. So what I tried to have her do was creating this grid of 5 columns with 5 rows underneath it, so she can start to figure out how to talk about each of these columns, each of these buckets of content. And when she goes to talk to social media, she's already got information that she gets to reverse engineer. So some
Like,
of it is
yeah.
just creating that content so that you can, I had asked her, create a little bit ahead so that you can see the patterns. And that's
Mm.
going to allow you to create that type of energy. Also, understand the platform. Look, YouTube is not like TikTok or
Yeah.
Instagram or LinkedIn. I don't have a ton of time. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, mostly because the newsletters are SEO enabled, so you can search for them on Google. They come up as blog posts.
Mm.
They're highly searchable. Newsletters get sent to your email. You get an app alert. You get a feed alert. You get like a ridiculous amount of alerts
Yeah.
using LinkedIn newsletters. Also, it's built with like Google and Microsoft technology, like Chat GPT is having conversations on LinkedIn called collaborative articles, where it's asking us, the real people, to comment, and then we get upvoted, and it shows our top. It gives us a top voice badge. So there's a lot that I would do on LinkedIn that's going to have impact outside of that platform, and for that reason, I chose LinkedIn as my platform, because what happened on Instagram stays on Instagram. What happens on TikTok stays on TikTok.
Yeah.
They're like the new Vegas. They're the new Vegas, right? But YouTube, Pinterest, and TikTok. I mean, YouTube, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. That that's a strong growth strategy where you're leveraging social and digital media. That SEO win is a big win.
So would you rather someone focuses on multiple platforms at once or master one and then move on to the other?
Master one. So who am I to say what the answer to that should be? But I would master one and move on to the other, so you know what you're building on,
Mm.
um, and that you can measure it, and there's intentionality behind it. I think 10 years ago we used to this throw pasta to the wall and see what sticks, and there's because we didn't quite know how the algorithms worked. We didn't quite know, but we do now. We do have a much more information on that, and I think the intentionality, the choices, the decisions we make on where to grow is important.
Mm. It's
Because now more than ever, platforms need stars more than audiences. They need stars because audiences come back for stars. So YouTube needed stars. TikTok needed the stars. My opinion. That's why TikTok made so many of them. So y'all would keep coming back to watch TikTok, and all your TikTok stars, they're only on TikTok. It's okay. YouTube did the same thing. Hey, I'm from MTV.
yeah.
First there was Jackass, then there was 80 billion different spin-off shows on Jackass. So like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna knock. I'm not gonna knock the process. I see what's happening here. I'm honored to be part of it.
But what if someone is a bit, let's say, shy or awkward when it comes to, filming themselves and they wanna, and of course, I think a big part of advertisement and branding is having that personal connection with your target audience, whether it was a business or just directly or a direct contact to consumers, right? So having the ability to project yourself and project your true self and project what you actually want is a bit difficult. And so how could someone practice that? Like, for instance, I actually had on my to-do list today to film something, clips just before, maybe during and after this recording, and have it as like a reel. However, I don't feel comfortable or I don't feel creative enough to produce something that's worth sharing and posting.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right. So let's talk about what you're experiencing right now. One, how about next time, or instead of just forfeiting entirely,
Yeah.
what if you were to use this time to create some ideas, to
Mm.
actually just write down some ideas? Part of being creative is a combination of physical and emotional muscle memory.
Mm.
Uh, Writing for me is really hard, but I know that if I really stick to it, and I do 10-minute writing exercises where I don't break thought and I just have to just get words down on paper so I can open up the path, I can open up the energy to something greater than what I'm stuck in. So that's something first and foremost. When I feel like I want to open up the space around me, to give myself the grace to stand still and to expand. The second thing is clarity. Not many people sit down and record something and edit it and post it all at the same time.
Mm.
When we shoot TV shows in TV, there's like a production day, and then it goes to edit, and then it goes to air, and they're not anywhere considered that it's supposed to be, even the same day. So, um, what I would do is be mindful of the year, be mindful that God gave us these loops around the sun for us to be able to experience a cycle.
Mm.
We have birthdays, we have anniversaries. So what I'd like to do is say, how can I do something now that I can continue to do? So like, what I wouldn't want you to do is make content only once. What I hope you do is like figure out how to make content like that forever.
Yeah.
Part of it is understanding is measuring time. So like, let's not try to record exactly what we want right now. Let's just be mindful that we have needs. And it's okay to put needs. You know, news companies, corporations, they have quotas. Magazines, writers, they have, producers, editors, they have quotas. They have mandatory. They start off every month -10. You need
Mm,
10 articles this month to fill this. You know, they have a quota.
yeah.
Just because we're creating content out of our back pocket and aren't working out of a budget deficit, probably because we don't like to think of our content that way as a deficit. Probably think we're investing in our money,
Mm,
but there's not a spreadsheet that shows the business model of it. So what I'm saying is approach it like the business that it is. Look that it's not nothing is a one-off. Otherwise, it's not successful if we can't do it again and share it and again and
yeah.
again. And that there should be a list or could be a list and a time of month or day or week where you're creative, and then a time that's set aside for the golden hour
Yeah.
of sunset you know what I mean, like some of that stuff is out of your control. And also I wipe out my calendar. You know, I don't try to squeeze videos in between meetings. I
Yeah.
put myself on my calendar. I dedicate myself. I won't go to a meeting if it's not on my calendar. So no, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I didn't know, I can't go, it's not on my calendar. So I realized, like, why can't I just treat myself the same way I would treat any other person's time,
Mm,
with respect, show up 100%. Don't think I'm gonna fit it in. Be intentional, and then if I am successful, I get some time back where I can go back and keep adding to that list of creativity.
yeah,
That's
I
what it
think
is,
that's what
though.
I
It's about
actually need.
options.
Mm.
It's about options, not about choices. It's about options. You have no shortage of choices, but
Yeah.
you don't have enough options right now.
Yeah, I think what you said is really important about having a set amount of time dedicated for each task. And, by actually making it a chore and treating it with, with respect and being serious about it, then this is the only way I guess you'd get it done, right? Like if there are no
Yeah,
meetings on my calendar, I wouldn't be here as well.
yeah, it's what it really does break my heart when I hear someone say, "Oh, I had a great idea, but it's just like a silly idea." I'll never get around to it. I'm like, you don't have time in your schedule for silly ideas because, like, that's how things happen. That's
Mm,
where they start from. And like, what a sad thing that that idea, that seed of a concept didn't get germinated and developed and grown into something bigger just because we weren't mindful of having time set aside for those types of projects. Instead, we want everything to be so perfect. We wait.
yeah. Yeah.
We'll wait for oh wait, I'm just gonna wait. Just 10 more downloads, one more episode, one
Yeah.
more follower,
Oh, that
and we
reminds me
come up
of
with
the
all
very
these
beginning.
excuses.
Yeah, that reminds me of the very
Yeah.
start. Yeah, I was like that. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, I think I told myself, God knows, like after 50 episodes, I'll start working on the video. And then one day I was like, this should not be that way.
Yeah.
And I forced myself to sit because I've been trying to work on getting this to work. So I'm streaming or sorry, recording this on OBS. And I had such a painful time trying to get the scenes and the screens and the inputs and the outputs and to get multiple different recordings to be able to filter them separately. It was such a hassle, but I gave myself 2 days. Each day I gave myself 2 to 3 hours. I was like, I have to get it
Hmm.
done. And this is when I got done. And now I've started
Yeah.
even earlier than I've set. So having those
Yeah.
goals are really important, not only for people who are producing content like us, but for people who have businesses as well, which like brings me to the next point. Um, I guess most of what you do is business to consumer kind of marketing, right? However, we want to focus more on, or I would like to know more about business to business kind of relationship. And I think you've
Yeah.
covered parts of it. So you said one of the most important things is knowing which platforms to post on. So I guess as a business to business, or if I'm dealing with other businesses, I would focus more on LinkedIn, YouTube, where things are a bit more professional, and where this is where your target market is. You won't find, probably, let's say I have a chips producing factory. I I
Mhm.
guess the consumer, or let's say I produce carton for people to package things in. I probably won't find them on Instagram searching for uh, like card boxes and stuff. They'd probably be either on Pinterest or on YouTube, or maybe searching for articles. It's important to have publications out there as well, having a professional website and whatnot. Like, I really enjoy your website. I think it's really um, like grasps your attention. It's captivating for the eye. It's easy to look at, easy to browse. So I think you've done really, really well there. And this is why I aspire to have such a good, well structured, and well designed website. But again, when it comes to these businesses, most of the markets are saturated and they're competitive.
Mhm.
So again, how can you stand out in these situations? How can you stand out against competition and beat the competitors?
Yeah, by the way, it's funny you brought up that one specific topic about being a packager or having a primary and secondary component. I agree with you. I worked in beauty and had to deal with packaging for a while. I'll tell you what, they're there. I'm one of 19 podcasts that was recently onboarded to the LinkedIn Podcast Academy on LinkedIn.
Mm,
And one of my fellow podcast cohorts that are in this program with me, his name is Corey Connors. His podcast is called Sustainable Packaging.
mm. Okay.
So it's exactly the type of thought leadership that you would find on LinkedIn.
Mm,
You know, for me, LinkedIn is a slower platform, first and foremost, where everything is built on speed and dexterity. I feel like and speed and stamina. Actually, more speed than stamina. I feel like LinkedIn is true and tried.
mm.
I don't feel like if we're connected on LinkedIn, you might leave and I'll never find you again because we know where you worked and who your friends are. And we've had,
Yeah.
like when I would meet people on Clubhouse or on Instagram, I felt I would feel pressure to have to follow them because I was like, should we work together? Should I not?
Yeah.
Do I trust you? Do I not? There was like this frantic kind of energy. TikTok, especially on TikTok as well. Facebook, not at all, because Facebook is to me, Facebook is really who I already know or people who know my people. Like, it's a very insular world. So a lot of us aren't using Facebook right now for growth because a lot of us are in growth mode as opposed to authority mode. Authority mode is great on Facebook. People who are already connected to you, Facebook's got some great ability to connect with and engage with your audience that works really strongly for leadership. I like LinkedIn for a bunch of reasons, mostly because how they show up. I like how what the platform stands for, um, and we're all on everything. I hate to say that. We're all. I'm on Lemon 8 and TikTok, and you know, different professions or for different reasons are on different platforms. I think I think the answer to the question is like, where do you want to be? Like, where do you want to be when you get discovered? Where do you want that conversation to transpire? Where do you want that connection to take place? Where do you want that relationship to build? For me, all of those answers are LinkedIn. For
Yeah.
all the reasons of newsletters and the LinkedIn podcast network and the ability to be top voice and to share. Like, I've figured out that my timing on LinkedIn better. Also, I don't have to post really more than like once a month on LinkedIn to be able to have a conversation that goes
Yeah.
viral, that gets hundreds of content, because it's all about the conversation, not about the post. And some people say, what do I have to say? I have nothing to say. We have a lot to say. But sometimes we just don't want to talk.
Yeah,
Sometimes we
it's
just
it's
don't want to
being in
hear
front
our
of
voice.
camera that's difficult.
Yeah, yeah. I'm mindful of that. Every time I'm posting, I'm asking you to read something.
Mm,
That's a lot when you think about that. Like, here I
yeah.
am, not just posting, but asking you to read and invest in what I wrote about again. So
Yeah,
I bring that
especially the
up
reading
because
part.
it goes into and on LinkedIn, you want to be a storyteller. You want to be a storyteller, or you want to be the source.
Yeah.
That's the trick. That's the game right now. Not getting stuck in post to post content. But thought leadership comes in context of content, organized conversations that are supported beyond just this moment, right? Like, that feels to me like thought leadership. And for that reason, I have recurring audio lives on LinkedIn in the future set up. Like I have, how DJs and celebrities have these these residencies at hotels and casinos in Vegas and like around the world and stuff like that, so that their audience knows where they are, so they can be found and discovered and they celebrated. There's something to be said about like, you're on my calendar. I got you. You're not going anywhere for the next 2 weeks. All right, I got you. There's a lot to be said about that in this world of content that goes by so quickly.
So with everything that's going on, it seems like you really enjoy what you do, and this is this is basically you when it comes to
Yeah.
posting content, when it comes to sharing ideas and sharing um, worthwhile material, and something that you put so much energy in to make sure that it not only suits you and benefits you, but it benefits whoever receives it. So where do you see yourself in, let's say, 10 years? Where do you see not only yourself, but the company or the brand that you
Oh
have
yeah.
or represent?
So if stories and storytellers and story makers and story sellers are, sort of like the market that we're in right now, I think in the next 5 years we'll see ourselves in like the community market, where we realize, that we put real extreme value on the community, the audience that's surrounding those creators. I think after that comes the editor and the curator, and the curator is where I think I shine. Um, Having edited, having created, having produced, having and being a creator myself, the curation part is where I get most excited about podcasting. The fact that I have an RSS as an address. LinkedIn talks to us about feed drops.
Mm,
Like, woo, make that hot. Like, put something on your podcast RSS that ain't
mm.
your podcast. Give them something good, not just something that they expect. Give them something. By the way, I would love to put this episode on my podcast. This isn't mine. This is yours. It sounds like you. It's hosted by you. It's completely your vibes. I couldn't think of a better person to put in front of my audience, by the way.
No, thank
Hey,
you.
you are very kind. Well, you're very kind to me, so thank you. And I think, we had a great conversation, but also my audience, we get a lot out of the types of questions, the framework, the point of view where you're coming from. Those are the questions. That's suddenly my answers are hitting that audience. That's not something
Yeah.
that I'm capable of creating right now on my own. Um, and also, one other part of your question was like people who are a little insular and are nervous about getting out.
Yeah.
Do it with a friend. Like
Oh,
I was terrified.
definitely.
This is weird. I was terrified to podcast. My friends were. I called up big celebrity friends that I had for two reasons. One, because I knew if I had Mandy Moore on my episode, no one cared if I made a mistake because everyone
Yeah.
was going to be listening. Even though that's not true, now I believe that not to be not fully true. But like I wanted that. And then the second thing is like, well, who better than someone who's like media trained? Are you
Mm.
kidding? She's a pro. Like her answers are going to give me better questions, let alone
Oh, yeah,
be in this
definitely.
space. And I was lucky to draw on the connections and contacts that I made throughout my career in TV. But I specifically, again, my MO in life was to be surrounded by creatives. I think it's romantic. I think it's so cool that people can create and collaborate, and it builds and it's emotional, and there's data and there's science and there's emotion. It's everything that I love about modern communication. And as podcasters, we get to do all that and own it. And now we're doing video. That's what's up.
And if you had, the option, you said that you've had the opportunity to get a lot of people on your podcast and have connections with famous people. So if you were to choose one famous celebrity to join you for a podcast, who would that be and why?
Oh, that I haven't worked with that I don't know. Julia Roberts.
Ooh, why?
Because she's built like, one, because she's a community leader. Two, because she's so well poised, and her celebrity game is strong. She's not in the tabloids. She's not someone you hear a lot of rumors about.
Mm,
Mandy Moore is very. I can write a playbook about a type of actor that I would love to be that is talented. I'm not really talented. I just wanted to be, but in great movies that people love watching and sharing. And then don't have to be part of the public limelight. You don't have to know who we're dating and like all the personal stuff that you know. You get a choice as a celebrity, as a podcaster, as people, as influencers. We have a choice of how we want to talk about our lives, our relationships, in response to the questions that come our way. Just because a question comes our way does not mean we have to answer it. So it's in taking that ownership of my narrative, of my story, I feel like empowered by these types of performers and actors that I've seen in my life, and Julia Roberts is like definitely one of them. Sandra Bullock, I would say too, but I would be too starstruck for Sandra Bullock. Julia Roberts, I'd at least be like, "You're such a big star." Sandra Bullock was like, I don't know, she was the number, she was the one for me. Sandra Bullock and Marissa Tomei, they were the because my cousin Vinnie was a big movie when I was a kid.
Who's yeah, well, when you said Julia Roberts, my second guess was you'd probably be into. I guess that you would like Sandra Bullock as well, because for me it seems like they're
Yeah.
pretty similar in their style and the way they act.
Sandra Bullock, I just want to do. I wish I could do all the movies with her. Like she's in some cool movies. I would always want to. I wish I could have been like her male counterpart in all those movies.
Well, which
Every
one is
movie she's ever
your
been in,
favorite?
count me in. Speed.
I really
It's an
enjoyed
easy
the what was
one.
it called? The one where she adopts a kid, and that that kid turns out to be what was it? A football player. I forgot the name of the movie. Was it?
Oh right.
Uh was it? I can't. Green Mile? No, probably not Green Mile. We can actually look it up. I
The
did
Green
not create.
Mile is that the Eminem movie?
No, that's
Green
Eighth
Mile.
Mile.
Eighth Mile. So it's Green Mile. You're absolutely right. Then it's Green Mile.
Actually, there's no point
Yeah.
in not utilizing the screen that I've done. So what we're gonna
It
do
is. The Blind
is
Side. The Blind Side. The
the
Blind Side.
blind side. Yes,
That's
exactly.
it.
And now, I guess if you want people to get in touch with you, how would you like them to do that, or to stay,
Oh, I love that.
remain in touch with your content and your articles and whatnot?
Yeah, well, you know how to play podcasts, so I'll keep it in podcast. Come check out my podcast after this. It's called I Have a Podcast. I talk to celebrities about the creative process. Mandy Moore, Ja Rule, Sujin Pak, the Danielle Fishel, the woman who played Topanga in Boy Meets World. I don't know if you watched that growing up, but just talk to celebrities about the answers, the yeses and the nos that made up their career, so we feel stronger about being creative ourselves.
So
And
I
the
guess
best place
this
to
is.
find me, I have a podcast, and I have a podcast.com. Best two places.
I told you this before, and I'm gonna say it again. I really enjoy browsing your website. It's so easy to use, and it has a lot of interesting content. I think the one that caught my attention the most was, if I'm not mistaken, she had like, this one, Five Pillars to Create Success Mindset with Natasha Graziano.
Oh yeah, Natasha Graziano. She's a powerhouse, and you're only going to be seeing more of her. I think she's going to be world famous, but her law of abundance and her ability to tap into some superpowers is really strong.
Well, Vinny, it was this one. It was nice having this conversation with you, and it's as usual. You're very easygoing, relaxed. That's what I like about you. That's why we agreed to have this second podcast. Um, but other than that, I think this was great. And again, guys, do let us know what you think of this episode, what you would like us to fix or to improve. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of things to improve. If you listen to my first ever episode, it was horrible, the editing and whatnot. But again, I guess there's a poll on each and every episode that's going to be released from now on. You can also find us on YouTube, but do give us your opinion, and as usual, we'll work on fixing it and producing the best content out there, because this is the Hilo Podcast and this is what we do. Thank you very much, and good night.